Welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly program where Masons from around the world get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. As a reminder, the thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely the opinions of the participants and do not represent any Grand Lodge statements or positions. Make sure you keep your conversations open for the public and on the level. To interact with us, we love seeing you live every Thursday night, Facebook and YouTube land. The chats are always fun, and remember, we can't get to all of them, but your chats may appear in the show. So, if you can't catch us live, catch us in the replay or in your favorite podcasting app. You know me, John Ruart, past master of the Patriot Lodge, number 1957 in Fairfax, Virginia. Next up for his introduction, Worshipful Jason Richards. What's up, Worsh?
Good evening. I'm just going to start not showing up. Jason Richards, past master of Vacation Lodge number 16 in Clifton, Virginia. Glad to be here.
So you're giving us the true Masonic experience. Past masters not showing up.
Me not showing up. Could be worse. Could be a past master and then show up.
That is true. Back in my year. Right, Joe?
No, I still can't say back in my year because my year never freaking ends. Hello.
Hello,
and good evening. Yes.
Who are you?
Hi. I am Joe Martinez, Pisces, lifelong Pisces. And let's see, I am past and current Worshipful Master of Manassas Lodge, number 182 in Manassas, Virginia. And I am currently in my mobile Masonic command in California.
Ooh, nice.
Still daylight out.
Nice. Thanks for joining us. Also in mobile Masonic command, RJ.
Hello, Robert Johnson, past master, Waukegan Lodge 78, past master of Space Novum 1183, the premier Masonic education lodge in the state of Illinois, and host of the Whence Came You podcast, broadcasting as our brother Juan Sepulveda used to say, from an undisclosed location somewhere in Sasquatch or Hodag country. I'm hanging out in a car looking at tents out on the grass.
Would you say that your view is intense?
Maybe later.
Okay.
Depends on how much my wife has to drink.
Because she'll need help with the tent. Got it.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, good. Glad
Couldn't you pitch your tent before you start drinking?
So the patrons have been fantastic supporting the show for many years. So thank you all to the patrons who support the show. Head over to patreon.com/the Masonic Roundtable to support free Masonic education for many years to come. We thank you so much.
Yes.
Great. Awesome. And then we shift over to Joe's favorite part of the show, even when he's in California.
No matter where I am.
Tarot card of the week.
It's a tarot card of the week.
Yay. Let's do it again.
Somebody do it.
All right.
What do we got, Jason?
We have the Sambucus Tarot.
I just had some sambucus with after dinner with a coffee bean in it.
Is that the kombucha?
No.
Oh.
Do I look like I drink kombucha?
You look like kombucha drinks you.
If there was a kombucha tarot or a kombucha tarot, it would just be, an entire deck of different types of heartburn.
Like,
this is a heart attack. Nope.
Wait till you see the Three of Swords. Carry on, Jason.
Tonight's tarot card of the week is...
Da-da-da. Nice. Okay.
Sideways. Threw me off. I like
Yeah,
it.
we got the landscape layout with chakras and astrological symbols. Nice. Strength. The more straightforward interpretation of the deck. Strength. What's a good context we could put that in?
It was one of the cardinal virtues, right? Or rather, that's fortitude.
Yeah,
seems
I'll
like,
take it.
Whenever this comes up, perseverance, a little, there's some perseverance that goes on there. It's the general thing that I usually will ascribe to the card when it comes up, because it usually fits. But there are, of course, nuanced interpretations.
Yeah, I like that, and I also like how it's strength with like poise and or compassion. That like she's sometimes pulling or opening the lion's mouth. It's not just rage. It's not just barbaric strength. It's like the warrior monk. Controlled strength, which I like.
Yes, not meth head strength.
Not yes.
Oh my God! Did you all see in the
Bath
news
salts.
a bunch of Tibetan monks tested positive for meth? And I'm like, oh, yeah.
Okay, then.
I'll post it. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe meth head strength and warrior strength. Warrior monk strength could be the same.
For true enlightenment.
You never know.
Very, very cool. So we're going to apply having the strength to contrive a great lodge experience in tonight's show. So this will be fun.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to this thing. Tonight's topic, lodge meeting or lodge experience. All right, so let's set the stage here. Back when I gave a presentation at Joe's Lodge, so many weeks ago, one question that I prompted the brothers with in the room was to think back to one of the greatest lodge experiences that they had. Right? What was it like? What were you doing? Who were you with? How did you feel? And it was really just a prompt to kind of carry the conversation forward of the topic. But a fascinating thing happened. After the presentation was over, after Lodge had closed, I had brothers coming up to me going, "Oh, let me tell you about my favorite Lodge experience." And we're just like delighted to share this one time, like 5 years ago, and how much you could just see it on their face. You could see the energy they brought. And I mean, it's a powerful question if you think about it. And so I really got to think about like, well, is that something that we should strive for? Not on the regular. You can't always bring your A game, but the corollary to that are when we have just the bare minimum required things to meet your meetings, to pay your bills. Because we've heard all, we can bring up ideas of or examples of where it's been not the most exciting lodge experience as well. So, based off of that introduction, what comes to mind, Joe?
Well, yeah, no. What I saw some of that interaction, when you were at my lodge.
I hope so. You were awake at that time. That was good.
I was making eye contact with you, showing my interest. No, one takeaway I had, which I didn't get to talk about you with, was every single person that came up to you or talked about it or brought it up, talked about a singular experience. Like it was this one time or saw this once. It was never, oh, I go to this lodge and I regularly, awesomeness reigns.
I always have this experience.
It was always, hey, I remember 1996, this one thing happened. It was always one experience. And that kind of bummed me out, right? And
right.
The one I shared, it was a singular experience. But I was like, damn, why aren't these guys getting it more often than a single time in their entire Masonic career? And that's kind of a bummer,
Mm-hmm. RJ, I saw you react to that too.
Yeah, I just feel like before we started Space Novum, I guess I didn't have access to the experience in the sort of spiritual, esoteric masonry that I had craved on a regular basis. Where did I first taste that? I tasted that experience at Lodge Vitruvian in Indiana. Um,
Mm.
there have been, South Pasadena Masonic Lodge. Never been to one of their lodge meetings, but their events, which is happening like this weekend, they cultivate this experience, and it's so much different. But also, I guess there is an experience that doesn't just mean esoteric and serious, right? There is
Correct.
a sort of baseline lodge meeting experience that's also something that I found out after 4 years of not going to my mother lodge, I also missed. So, it really does go both ways in that, depending on what you're looking for, you can find it. But it's important because so many guys are out there today that haven't found it. They haven't found that experience. And so when you guys say like that singular experience they talk about, it is a bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that 'cause I saw Mike Hambrack. Hey, Mikey. He immediately, as soon as you asked that question, he said both. And the first thing that popped into my head was, is it though? Is it really? Because, and RJ made an excellent point. No, we don't need, you don't need your soul to shoot out the top of your head every single time you go to lodge, right? That's not the experience that we're referring to, but just going to lodge and something moving you, whether it's because it's deep and mystical or whether it's super communal, right? You're with a bunch of dudes that you absolutely adore and love. Like, it doesn't have to be a spiritually transcendent experience.
Right.
You're getting something of value more than once, I think. Takeaway, right? More than one single time.
Mm-hmm.
You can only have a limited number of transformational experiences at once, right?
Apparently,
Maybe,
if you do
maybe.
masonry.
Well,
If masonry is just on the
that's
aggregate
okay, so
mid, then maybe we're doing better.
well, okay, so this brings up an interesting question, and maybe just a quick aside is to think about
Mhm.
those singular experiences that we have, those mind-blowing times, whether it's like, I can tell you about a super mundane time I was at a lodge, and it was like, whatever. At the
Right.
time, I was a DDGM. I was doing a visit, and I was like, standard stuff, whatever, right? But this dude got up, and I was at this point not a real big youth groups guy, and I watched a guy stand up and talk about like how Rainbow changed his granddaughter's life,
Wow.
and like watching that dude like kind of like cry about it. I mean, like literally tears. I'm
Yeah.
not making fun. Like, he was emotional about this because she had, she wasn't like the most popular kid or whatever, but she found a community, and it was like, oh man. And I'll always remember that. That was an experience. And so we have all these different experiences, but like Jason, when you said, I mean, in jest or whatever, maybe, but you can only
It
have
was
so
in
many
jest.
of the. Yeah, but like, think about
Well,
that. Like, how many times can we do it?
right.
Is experiencing something, even if it is over and over, still like a true experience?
Well, I mean, if we're talking about true like transformational experiences, I think those only happen a handful of times.
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of getting at.
Mhm.
But you can still have a very deep grounding experience on a regular basis.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think this is great because this is exactly where I wanted this conversation to go. So you could have bad experiences too. So let's
Sure.
also,
Sure.
lay those cards on the table. We are talking about the good experiences. So, at least above mid or hopefully great and then transformational every once in a while in your life. That would be great. And so, yeah, I think this is really coming up to Joe M's question, which is, why can't you have a value added experience every time though?
You
Yeah,
can.
because
I'm not saying you can't.
No, that question
Right.
was meant. That question was meant to, again, step it away from your point, which I think is absolutely spot on. Yes, your life cannot be transformed every single time you go to lodge, and it would be absurd to think otherwise. But back to the point of it, which is, why can't I find something of value every time I go to lodge? And
Right.
the majority of those in the world, not just us four snooty folk, is they don't. They go because it's repetitious or because it's become part of their schedule.
Right.
Or, it's more
Or they're guilted into it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like with you. So I mean, it's
I go willingly and of my own free will and accord.
Blink twice if you need to be rescued.
Do you need help? No, but like it's shocking that so many, and the state of the craft is speaks to this, right? It's it's not like it's shooting upwards towards 2040, where we're suddenly going to have 10 million Masons. No. So I think it's the value proposition of it, right? It's like, and I know that's what you're going to talk about, so I will shut up. Go.
So Jason, what does he mean by value proposition? What's so important there?
Well, John, any good business, you do things in life because they give you value. That is how you spend your time. Yeah,
not just monetarily, right?
Yeah, yeah, right. You devote time, you devote fiscal resources, you devote other resources. There are opportunity costs. You don't get to do some things because you spend your nights in lodge. Because in an ideal world, there is some value that is being provided. And so it's really the business proposition of what gets you in that seat and what keeps you coming back.
Okay, exactly.
And back to the both thing, again, there's no reason why we have lodge meetings that are devoid of anything of value, right? Just to have lodge meetings. So that's what both kind of bothers me a little bit, right? It's like, it's, and I know it's semantics, but to expect and to deliver to the people in your lodge a meeting that is devoid of anything of value. And we're not saying your soul has to be transformed every time you go, but to literally walk in, hear things being read, hear a couple of people argue and go home. What value does that provide to the average Mason? And it's not rhetorical. I really want to know. So from the people that say meetings are important, tell me what a meeting devoid of anything of substance,
right?
How does that make you a better person? I'm dying to know.
Well, so yeah, I mean, Chris Hodap has been known to say that many men leave Masonry after their fourth meeting. Their EA, their fellow craft, their Master Mason, and their first stayed-in meeting as a Master Mason, when they realize that's it, that's all that work to hear them argue over which color light bulbs to change to, right? That's what we're trying to avoid, right? We're trying to make sure that.
Or is it when they become a noble? Right after their Master Mason degree. Sorry.
Yep.
That also happens. And as we think about this idea of the fourth meeting or whatever, and you think about value proposition, we've joked many times about the most mundane things in life that are available to you 24 hours a day,
right,
that offer a greater value proposition than what Joe was referring to.
Yeah.
So like if the lodge was a lodge that literally meets to rush through the minutes, because you have to read them or you don't, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then you blast through some reports, do the typical like arguing over whatever. And let's be honest, like, yeah, lodges, do they really argue over toilet paper? Sometimes. Overhead going to incandescent or fluorescent bulbs, like all that stuff. And at the end of the day, you've done nothing but like kind of had a temple board meeting, maybe. Yeah, I'm gonna stay home and watch the new season of Sandman.
Right.
Right?
Well,
No,
I
I haven't
mean,
watched it yet.
It's just like
I haven't either.
me neither.
But
Like,
I want to go back.
That's kind of like
Not an endorsement of the author.
no. I was just gonna say not. Yeah, that's a good point. Not an endorsement of the author. I would say that. I mean, what can we do? What can we do in a meeting that does give you
Right.
a feeling of accomplishment or realization or even entertainment?
Yes. Now, I want to make that really clear, because we're not saying that experience has to be a certain flavor, or has to be the same thing for every lodge, or has to be the same thing for every Mason.
Person. Yeah.
Yeah, because what's valuable to Jason is different than RJ, then different than Joe, then different than John. Because we all have different preferences, tastes, right? And so even if the brothers leave that lodge experience, that lodge meeting, fulfilled, happy, social, that's amazing. Like, I'll take it, right? That could be you all had a good time at the family picnic. That's a good lodge experience. It could be that you had a great TO type style meeting and a huge agape board with, you got to put on some fancy clothes, you got to have some fancy food. That could be one way to, leave fulfilled in Masonry. Or it could just be as simple as, I got to see a guy I haven't seen in 10 years, and we just reconnected again, and I'm so happy that I went to lodge that night. That's simple.
We call that having a broner.
Yes.
No, nobody actually calls it that, actually. But to
I
your,
do. What are you guys talking about?
RJ
all right,
does.
fine, I say that sometimes. No, no, I think, and Jason said something tongue in cheek before, but I'm actually going to go back to it when we were talking about nobles, for example, right? You find some dudes, they get through Blue Lodge, they join some other appendant body, and then they go wholehearted into that. That becomes their identity and stuff like that. I don't think anybody here on the show is going to say that that's a bad thing. Like, I know people that absolutely love one flavor of Masonry or another, and the Shriner thing just actually clicked with me, because the first thing I thought of was guys like our favorite, Don McAndrews, right? What does Don do in his spare time?
He does everything.
Well, his son is potentate of the shrine near us, right? So, and he's doing an amazing job at that. But what does him and his old man do? They drive kids up to Shriners Hospital whenever they have a free day. And I'm like, for all the times we sit here and poke fun at the shrine and stuff like that, you got two dudes who just put their heads down and just do stuff that is so much more amazing of a value proposition than 90% of the Masons that we know. You know what I mean? And they don't post about it on Facebook. They're like, going to Philly and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like taking selfies with the kids or whatever. Like, to that point, people love to like step on appended bodies for quote unquote stealing Blue Lodge Masons. But here's the thing. If that appended body is offering a value proposition, you can't blame them for not going back to Blue Lodge.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
There's something there. Yeah, there's something that attracts those members. Exactly. Now, when I teach this kind of concept of customer experience in some of my usual vocations, the best example I like to give. So I do a lot in government work, bureaucratic work, a lot of paperwork, a lot of steps, a lot of bureaucracy. And so I like to compare things as like, would you rather have this process run by the Department of Motor Vehicles, or would you rather have this process run by Disney or Chick-fil-A, right? Who they obsess over the customer experience, right? Same process, because you can get the same outcome, the output, with different outcomes, right? The experience is completely different. And so that's one way to say, okay, well, I've been in both. I've stood in line at the DMV and had a horrible experience, and just the waiting, and no one really seemed to care, and I got the wrong form and no one told me. Or, hey, we're really busy. I'll bring it out to your car. My pleasure. That kind of experience. You leave like, hey, this is pretty exciting. I haven't even had my food yet, right? And of course, I'm also like a Disney dad. So I think it's fascinating just to see all the things that a company like Disney does for that park experience, how everything's orchestrated. Everything is with intent. So that's the next segue, is how do you cultivate a great lodge experience? You have to deliberately plan for a good lodge experience. If that is like, hey, we should probably do ritual practice so we don't sound like a bunch of knuckleheads, either in our stated meeting or hopefully not during a degree, maybe we should take the deliberate time to improve the quality of what we're doing so that new brother coming in has the best experience he can. And again, that costs you nothing. It costs $0.
Sure.
A couple hours of your time. That's it.
At some point, failing the plan is planning to fail.
Well, that's you're kind of hitting on the head of what this show is about tonight, right? I know we prefaced it with something really simple, lodge meeting versus lodge experience, but that's really the crux of the matter. And yes, you can have spontaneous moments of wonderful Masonicness that pop up. That's cool. But if you're not planning for it, if you're not doing the work to make sure that it happens, and you're not polling the members that are spending their time to, spend 2 hours with you and do masonry, if you're not asking them the stuff that they're interested in, the stuff that gets them coming back to masonry all the time, then it's not an experience. It's not an experience, and you can't tell me otherwise. You know what I mean?
It doesn't just fall out of the sky.
No, they don't. Yes, there's always beautiful moments of masonry that happen. I don't have to be in a lodge room to witness them. You know what I mean? But without
something to be said about the customer journey.
The customer journey, 100%. Yep.
Sorry, Joe. Didn't mean to cut you.
No. I'm just venting because, like I said, it's people want amazing things. They want to walk into a lodge and just be magically transformed. That takes work. It takes work.
Mm-hmm.
And if the lodge you're going to doesn't do that, guess what? Go find another one. Y'all have cars. Y'all have 2 feet. Go find a place that gives you an experience and stop complaining.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to a brother from California who just spent the entire day with me today. I've never met him in person. We've been Facebook friends for 7 years. I've seen him on Zoom a couple of times. We just spent the whole day together. He drove 120 miles to hang out with me today.
Wow.
And we literally, for the whole time we were at dinner or lunch or whatever, because the time zone had messed me up, the whole time we were talking about lodge experiences. And he was telling me how the lodge that he has been a member of for 20-something years is absolutely crap. The lodge experience is terrible. So now he drives 40 miles to go to lodge. And he's found a lodge that does ritual with intent, has education, brings value add to him, so much so that he took his son there to put him through the degrees in masonry instead of the lodge that was 5 minutes from his house. So this is not something that the 4 of us just came up with. Everybody's talking about this because it's such a systemic issue.
Yeah.
Be the change.
You can try to be the change, but it's something air will fall out. You will get burned out and tired.
Yeah.
And to your point, Mike, you'll leave masonry for a long time because you just get burnt out because you try to be the change and people don't listen or people don't care. Yeah. So find a group of people that are as weird as you and go do masonry with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Boom. I agree. So that does require a little bit of planning, right? So I think what I heard you say is, okay, how do I make a better lodge experience? 1, figure out what my brothers care about and what do they enjoy doing, not just because they've always done it that way or it's the annual strawberry festival that you got to do, but if they enjoy doing it, keep doing it. Great, right? Do a retrospective. What's going well? What didn't go so well? What can you do better next time? reference to last week. But after you see what the Lodge brothers want to do, then deliberately set up ways that can be successful. Again, it doesn't have to be transformational. It doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to be done overnight either. But if it's, as long as it's deliberate and with intent, and say, hey, we all think that maybe we'd have a better time since we notice our wives are coming to dinner more. What if we stepped up the quality of the food, whether we get that catered, whether we get that, hey, one brother is a chef, maybe we could say, we'll chip in a little bit and get him to just raise the level of the food a little bit. Little things like that go a long way. Because, just like in the Disney example, an experience is not necessarily a singular event. I mean, it can be mind-blowing, transformational. But it's often lots of little steps along the way. Right? Because this went well, and this went well, and this was done deliberately, that these things complement each other. Then, when you put it all together, you're left with, holy smokes, that was meaningful. Yep. So we have a few guys saying their lodge has a good lodge experience, so that's good to hear.
Y'all are blessed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, you keep bringing up Disney, but I mean, they literally, their whole brand is based around, especially at the theme parks, is based around like these big principles that if you don't follow them, you're gone, right? Like they don't fart around with that. Like, the simple things like, people in costume never take off their, you never take your costume off in public, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter if it's 90 degrees out, like you stay in costume the entire time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have a ton of those kind of examples. Like, it was said that Walt himself ate like some food and then counted how many steps it took before his food was done and said, put a trash can right here. that you shouldn't go any further than this before I see another trash can. And I think that's still rumored to be the same distance between trash cans today. Or if a kid drops their ice cream, every cast member is expected to just give them another free ice cream. Right? It's just not a question. That's what you're supposed to do because customer experience is premier to them. Yep. So those little things, same thing. So what could that be for your lodge experience? And I really like the customer journey example, Jason. So explain to the non-technical folks, like what is a customer journey? How does that relate to like the Masonic experience?
So customer journey or a customer journey map is one of the tools that John and I have used in lifetimes past. It essentially is basically putting on the glasses of your fellow lodge members. Not literally, but it's an attempt to understand your lodge members' motivations and reasons for doing what they do vis-a-vis Masonry. And so you can even kind of map out like what events they go to, what their motivations are, what gets them coming back. And it's just an attempt to get to know your client or your customer.
Yeah. So I think another good example is like have you heard of like the secret shopper program for some stores? They will pay random people to say, hey, on this date, we want you to go into this store and try to buy a suitcase or something like that, right? And we want you to be aware and observe and write down, did anyone greet you when you came in? Was everything clean? Did anyone try to help you when you're bargaining? Was the help satisfactory? Were they knowledgeable or they didn't know anything? And so they want all that information because as you are a customer journeying through making a sale, right? There's going to be lots of little friction points along the way. That's going to make you go, I should probably just go home, right? Same thing for lodge, right? What is that new brother experiencing when they come to lodge for the first time? Are they greeted warmly? Or they have, Juan Sepulveda used to talk about the little cliques that happen in the social hall even before the meeting. And is the lodge clean? Is the ritual good? Like, these are all little things that add up. All the things, these are examples of things that we were talking about that all add up to a good experience. But you'll know if it's bad. Like, no one calls the phone company and says, "Hey, thanks for this great service." No, you only call when there's an outage, right? Same thing is true, that like you don't notice it. It should be invisible. That when it works well enough that it's almost like it goes so super smooth. That's how you know that you're really onto something.
So I'm left thinking about this idea that you talk about all of these things that companies do to include to sort of evaluate the customer experience, and it takes a lot of work, tons of work. But here's all I'm gonna say is that there are companies that focus not only on, I mean, we're talking about every aspect of the consumer experience, unboxing materials. Okay, I have a great friend and brother who literally works for a company that produces the films that cover your electronics. And when you take them home and you peel that film off the screen or off the front of the dishwasher,
So satisfying.
would you believe that the sound it makes to how much tension and stretch it has is all rated?
Nice.
Like, it is
I believe it now.
designed
I've never
to-
thought about it before, but
It is designed to be satisfactory. Every nuance. So the next time you're thinking, like, to what extent do I really have to make this lodge experience awesome? Okay, the sky's the limit, dude.
yeah, that's true.
I mean, really. But one of the things that's crazy to me, like in Illinois, it's kind of traditional, even though it's not in the advancement book for officers, it's traditional that like a lot of times the marshal sets up the lodge room. Here's what's up. The average member probably doesn't want to see the lodge being set up. So it makes sense that it's set up
Yeah.
when they walk in there.
Good
It's got to
example.
look nice. When I go to Lodge Vitruvian, the lodge is closed. You can't even go in until the procession. And by the time you go in there, the lighting's there. There's maybe some incense. There's some sounds that are playing that are like awesome. The ritual is like on point and like on a good cadence. I mean, it's all of these things. They have cultivated an experience. And, that over time really builds a lodge culture to continue that same thing. And then pretty soon you get new guys. And the new guys don't remember the old ways. They only remember what you showed them. And it
Yep.
becomes the new norm. But then with Masonry, we've talked about this being a benevolent dictatorship. How do we ensure things don't go from awesome experience to like lame duck stuff? I wonder about that all the time, and it's one of my big concerns. We work
it's hard.
so hard to turn a ship around.
Yep.
How do we keep it back on track?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, that's a systemic issue in and out of Freemasonry, right? Like in the business world, what is it usually like? Was it 3 to 5 years before systemic changes go back to, the old shitty standard? Oops, sorry. I think, you come in and companies transforming and all that stuff, first couple of years, the people that saw how bad it was totally appreciate it, but you get enough attrition, you get enough new hires and all this stuff, and things start to go back to those old systems. So I don't think Freemasonry is any different. You're probably on that same 3 to 5, maybe 7-year trajectory, right? If you started with a bunch of guys, and that's just human nature, right? So, to see a lodge experience like that transcend that time frame is amazing.
Yeah, and it takes work. Yeah, it takes
that's just the time it
strategic
takes
planning.
to get through all the chairs.
Yes, that's well. We should just mandate progressive lines and ensure quality every step of the way.
No, but I mean, all
Jason.
kidding aside, go ahead, rate him, get him. I can't see your face,
I
Artie,
was
so I
just
don't know
gonna
when you're about to talk.
I couldn't. You wouldn't have seen my face, but when you said that, I just thought it was like so savage. People would have seen it, but I had to just be audio only and tell you that I thought that was brilliant. So
It's like you're this
touche,
wonderful
sir.
ghost in all our offices. I love it. Yes. No, but I mean,
I was speaking from experience. Like, I got my Master Mason degree the very next month I went in as junior steward. And then, took a year off, then went in as senior deacon and went all the way through the East. 5 years.
Now, another thing that came to mind as I was preparing for this episode was also thinking about, like, what are the extremes, right? When you have the worst lodge experience that I can recall, and the quality of the ritual, the how the lodge room was really not kept up that well, and then you also have these great as in enormous festive boards, and they required certain attire going in, and there was a cost to dinner, right? On top of it, wasn't an optional thing. It was like, you must pay because this is getting catered. So there again, we're not saying one is better than the other. We are saying that sometimes it does cost a little bit more, right? Because there are some lodges that have decided to raise their dues to provide an expectation of experience. I'm not going to say a better experience. I'm not going to say whatever. It's just the lodge has agreed that to operate at this quality of cleanliness, quality, ritual,
Green
food, green beans. We got to get top notch green beans. Then you got to pay more for it, right? And that comes with that. And then I can hear already some guys going like, well, yeah, but we're a small lodge and our dues are low and all that. And so,
Okay, maybe that is a value proposition.
so pay more dues if you want better stuff. It's
or donate more. Yeah.
Yeah, literally had this conversation today with the brother, and he was asking about dues in Virginia and other places and stuff. The dues at the lodge that he's not a fan of, and mind you, this is California, so I know it's all relative, but the dues at the lodge he's trying to leave are over $300. And I'm like, damn, what do you get for your money?
Right.
He tells me not very much. The lodge he's going to, and again, I'm not equating money to success,
right,
money to value, but he goes to another lodge that he drives 40 miles to, that he loved it so much he brought his son into Freemasonry there, pays a lot more money in dues, has a wonderful catered meal all the time. Everybody there takes it seriously. It's a much more profound starting experience. So you've got guys that are coming into Masonry in this lodge, and they're already, to your point, to RJ's point, that's their normal, right? So I think that's probably where they're seeing better pockets of success,
I've been to certain lodges where, like, I felt like the meeting itself was okay, decent meeting. There was education, and I peaked. The lodge is in okay shape. They're really trying. They're doing catered. They're not doing catered meals. They got a junior warden who's like cooking up stuff. He gets there at 5:00. They eat at like 6:30. They're doing their stuff, and I go inside the prep room, and what I see are literally, fridge magnets. How they have like shapes and like letters and stuff. They have fridge magnets on the table, colored with a Sharpie, for salt and sulfur. And then they had a little plastic rooster. And I was just
Nice.
like, these guys are doing what they can.
Yeah.
And they're creating an experience. And so
Right.
while like many lodges, the easiest thing to do is to cultivate an experience and charge a lot of money for dues to pay for it. That's the easiest thing in
Sure.
the world to do,
Wouldn't it be nice?
right? It would be super great. Like, you got a lot of money, cool. We can cultivate an experience with that. But I think we also have to give a huge kudos to the lodges out there that are delivering these experiences, but they're like kind of scraping by. But they're left with members who romanticize and have a total broner for their awesome small lodge that they can't raise the dues because fixed incomes and yada yada yada, and maybe dressing up is jeans and polos. But like, there is an experience to be had there, and I think we set that expectation when we started this conversation too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yep. Like the intern says it best, small lodges with low dues does not excuse poor experiences.
Nope. No, and it's we've talked about this, and I've talked about this with all of you. One of my most favorite lodge experiences ever in my life, and I just hit 20 years as a Mason, was driving down to Yadkinville, North Carolina, where there was 1.5 streetlights, no stop signs, with a bunch of Northerners in my minivan. Went to a tiny little country lodge where they served green beans. They were some of the best green beans I've ever had in my life. But it was communal cooking, a lodge room full of people that were dressed however they could. There was not a single bow tie in sight. Jeans and button downs and polo shirts and t-shirts and whatever the hell it was. Had an amazing dinner that probably went way too long. Went into lodge. These guys did their ritual with purpose and intent. And you could tell all the way back to John's point, they actually cared about the things that they were saying, right? And that already set the tone for the rest of the day. They do Masonic education however they can. I was blessed enough to get asked to go down there, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. They did fellowship with intention, which I think most of our lodges are missing, right? It's don't just sit down with your best buds, have a meal, ignore everybody else. They made it a point to, oh, this dude's a new guy, we're all going to sit with him. Or these people are guests, hey, we're going to mix and match, and we're going to put some of our guys with some of their guys. And they did, and I saw it, and I was watching it during dinner. I'm like, oh my God, they actually care about people that walk through the door, and they do fellowship with intent, and they keep these people engaged, right? So, I mean, those three things there already provide for an amazing lodge experience and don't cost you a dime. But we don't do it. We don't do it. They're, again, those singular experiences that we all end up having. Because Masonry is just a club, right?
No.
Oh.
No, it is not. Yep. I'm just trying to picture now, like, brainstorm with me, like, what would it look like if you had a top-notch customer experience, customer service organization, Disney, Chick-fil-A, Hilton, whatever you want to think of, and have them run the operations of the Masonic experience? What could that look like? I mean, that would be just great, right? To say, and there's lots of things there's lots of threads you could pull, but what would make something kind of like the white glove, service of Freemasonry?
I just told you three of them.
Well, I'm saying if you took, like, you went and said, hey, we're hiring consultants that are gonna come in and really, clean this up. What would you expect to see?
Consultants came into any Grand Lodge, okay, on day one and said, here's your problems.
Yeah.
There would be a long list, right? Because right, the problem is,
such as give me some examples.
I feel like those of us who are consultants do that to our respective Grand Lodges for free.
With minimal results.
And then they tell us to leave.
do it.
They don't like what they heard.
Yeah,
right.
that's it.
Yes.
Too soon, Joe?
Fired off of two committees.
Okay. For
Go,
everybody
RJ.
listening at home, everybody listening at home right now needs to know that everybody you see on screen, yours including me as well, have been let go in the past, some recent past, some long ago past, from a Masonic committee in which we were acting in a capacity as a consultant and doing like forward thinking, successful stuff. And we were let go because it's not what they were looking for, which to me is so bonkers. Like, I mean, I'm back on a committee and like I do a lot of work and I, like whatever, but I've been on some committees that, and you guys too. I mean, you preaching to the choir. It's like, I feel like in many organizations, unless the idea comes from the top, nobody wants to do it.
Well, and that's the
Right.
problem. And I was trying to get towards that on the consulting aspect. And I wasn't being glib when I responded to you like that, John, because the truth is we can't fix local lodge issues from a top-down approach, right? Because the top doesn't do
Yeah.
masonry,
No, of
right?
course.
They do administration, right? So if you were to tell me, hey,
It's
we're
really
bringing
a pincer movement.
yes, I'm not doing the other one. You would have to deploy consultants to every single lodge in your jurisdiction, right? And then poll
Fair.
each one individually because you can't. You can't.
Sure. I totally get it. I wasn't saying top down Grand Lodge enforcement or anything like that. I was just looking for ideas and examples of like, let me be a little bit more explicit. What if the Disney Corporation ran your lodge experience? What would they do different? Or what would they recommend you do different? Right?
Well, I think number one is, and we talked about it before, poll your audience. These are people that pay money to do masonry with you. So why don't you find out what actually gets them out of bed and into lodge, right? So instead of sitting there watching the news, what drives them to show up for lodge? Find out what it is they like and what they don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good point. And then once they're there, I think another thing that comes to mind too is when we say like customer experience or lodge experience, that includes pulling into the parking lot.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't start inside. It starts on traffic. Here's a perfect example. I moved my commandery from Washington, D.C. back to Virginia because the lodge experience of going through D.C. traffic during inauguration nights or State of the Unions was horrible. And I was like, I'll never go into the city again to go to commandery and fight all this traffic and worry about showing up late. That's before I even get to the door, right? And that literally had me move my commandery, or move to a different commandery. So that's that. And then once you're on the premises, does the outside look pretty? Is it being taken care of, or is it trashy, or is it not clean? Is it just whatever? So that's just getting from your car into the building, right? So these are all little things that add up. So that's kind of things that I'm thinking of that, if someone were top down thinking like, what's the best experience they can have at your lodge? Again, not trying to turn anyone's lodge into Disney or turn it into Chick-fil-A, but I'm just saying, if they were to say, for your brothers in your lodge, as they are coming in, how can they have the optimal, maybe that's a better term, the optimal experience, given where your lodge is and the makeup of your brother and that kind of thing?
Well, I mean, another one I can think of is a quick cost analysis, right? Like let's pick the most fun example of all, lodge dinners, right? And I'll give you a real world example. We at our lodge this year, we and everybody here knows my secretary. He's very budget conscious. He's like, hey, here's our budget. This is where we got to stick to. Don't go over. If you go over, we'll figure it out. But here's the deal. for years he's been talking about, hey, we take in too little for lodge dinners because it costs these people more money to make dinners if we're doing, if we're having an independent body cook or the Rainbow Girls cook or something, or we get catering or whatever. So his big thing was we got to raise the price of dinners. I'm like, okay, we'll raise the price of dinners. And we brought it out to everybody. But I said, if we're going to raise the price for dinners, I don't want a single person walking away and saying, holy crap, I can't believe I paid $15 for that. Or, I got 2 green beans and a soggy piece of ham, and that cost me way too much money. I'm never eating dinner here again. Like, that cannot happen. So it was like, okay, we're going to raise this, but the experience has got to come up to match commensurately. And if it doesn't, then you can't do it. But it worked, and I can't think of, and I'm sure Jason's going to correct me, but I can't think of in the last year where we've had, holy crap, this dinner sucked, and I can't believe I paid money for that.
Yeah. Especially those Brussels sprouts. They were the bomb.
150th was rough, but there was a different reason entirely for that.
You didn't drink enough.
All right, here we are. We're at that time. Final question of the night. As you step off the stage, tell us what one thing enhances the Masonic experience to you. Again, it could be lots of things for lots of people. Yes. What one specific thing enhances your Masonic experience?
One thing.
One thing. How about RJ, Mobile Masonic Command? You want to chime in on that one first?
Sure. There are so many things that are out there, and not because I feel like they're lacking or anything. But as I think back to lodge experiences that I've had, one thing they all had in common that were, in fact, mind-blowing experiences was the seriousness of the opening. And in most cases before. So having a lodge procession, the lodge doors were opened, we walked in, you go around the altar, maybe there's some incense or something, lights are low, there's some light music happening, you sit down. So there's like this kind of pre-work that happens before the gavel. And in many jurisdictions, anything before the gavel is not necessarily, again, in many jurisdictions, not all, if it's before it falls outside and rules and regulations. Again, check your local laws, mileage. So, only between the gavels is what Grand Lodge sort of like commands there. So for me, I'll just say procession. Procession really sets the tone for me, and led to have some great experiences.
That's great. Thanks for sharing. All right, Jason, over to you. What one thing enhances the Masonic experience to you?
Leaving time for quiet contemplation and reflection.
I thought you were just going to say leaving.
No. I know I've been spicy tonight, but like that even to me is a bridge too far.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Say it again.
Leaving time for quiet contemplation and reflection.
Before, during, after, all the above?
Before.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to say bookend it. In Virginia, we have a closing charge. And the way in which we give that closing charge is I think it's solemn, but it's also contemplative. And so I think if you can bookend your meetings with quiet reflection, calming the mind, leaving everything outside the lodge room, then that inherently elevates anything that goes on in between.
I like it. Good one. Thanks for sharing. Joseph.
What? Yeah, my answers were taken because they were phenomenal. But yeah, so I would have to say one thing that I've seen enhance brothers' values of the thing that they're doing is, and I said it before, it's doing ritual with intent, whether it's opening the lodge, displaying the great lights, closing the lodge, delivering the charge, doing initiation work with just intent and with purpose. No, you don't have to do it in a tux and tails and shimmering white and gold regalia, but just doing it like you care can go such a long way to just bring that infectious quality to everybody that's in that room. And some people won't get it, and that's okay. You can't have one singular lodge experience that's going to meet everybody's needs. But if you start with a baseline of here's all the things that we know and we know together, ritual with purpose. It doesn't take that much work to do that, and the dividends pay off in the long run for both guys who have been there for a long time and people that are coming in for the very first time. So
nice. I like it. All right. As for me, final question. As I was thinking about it, again, all good answers. Where I used to work, sometimes I heard that the quality of a meeting at work was based not on what happened in the meeting, but the amount of hang time afterwards. So they called it hang time, meaning when people stand outside of the conference room and continue to talk and engage and collaborate and share and think through problems, right? So you see that in the Masonic setting as well. And the times that I'm thinking of really good lodge experiences, it continued on after the final gavel, right? In that hanging out in the social hall, closing it down, almost getting kicked out by the worshipful master, like, guys, you got to go home, or you can't stay here, that kind of thing, because it was so purposeful that you didn't want to leave. It's with good social atmosphere, good conversation, good fraternal engagement, good, just everything was going so well. And so I like to call that the hang time after lodge is also a good indicator of something that enhances the Masonic experience for me personally. And so in summary, looking at what RJ said with opening processions, what Jason was saying about quiet contemplation, Joe saying, deliberate ritual, and the hang time afterwards, guess what? All four of those cost nothing to do. But those are the most memorable to us. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Think about how you can improve your lodge experience and make your lodge, and by extension, your brothers, more awesome. With that, I want to thank you all very much and keep searching for more light. Have a good night.